Welcome to the Murfreesboro City Council meeting. It's February 5th. Councilmember Sean Wright has our prayer and our pledge.
Heavenly Father, please be with us as we make decisions for the city this evening. Please be with those that have spoken needs or unspoken needs, Lord. There are people hurting in the world and they need your help. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Did we have anyone wishing to speak?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. You have 6 items on your consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. We'll move to land use matters. We have the Plan of Services, Annexation, and Zoning for property along Majesty Drive and Cicero Drive. Mr. Blomley.
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The first item tonight is an annexation request and plan of services for property located at the intersection of Cicero Drive and Majesty Drive. And this is not the Majesty Drive in Regency Park. This is a Majesty Drive off of Florence Road in the unincorporated county. It's the area in the blue color here. It's about 6.4 acres. And the owners of that property have requested annexation and zoning to RS6 simultaneous with annexation. The annexation will be the subject of the first public hearing, and the zoning will be the subject of the second public hearing. The plan of services is included in your agenda materials, and as you can see, because of the close proximity to the existing city limits, the extension of services will be relatively easy to effect. There is sewer available to the subject property. However, it relies on a pump station in the neighboring Blackman Village development to the south, and the applicants will need to conduct a study with Murfreesboro Water Resources to determine whether or not that pump station needs to be upgraded upon development of the property. But as you can see, the subject area on the map directly to the east of the subject property is the Royal Court subdivision in the unincorporated county. Bordering the property to the north is the Unity Free Will Baptist Church, as well as I-840, and the Blackman United Methodist Church is to the southwest, and to the south, as I mentioned, is the Blackman Village single-family residential development that was developed several years ago by Old South. We need to hold a public hearing tonight on the annexation and the plan of services. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this request at its December 3rd regular meeting. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding the annexation.
Any questions for Mr. Blomley? All right, we need to hold a public hearing for this plan of services and annexation. When we open the public hearing, anyone wishing to speak for or against, if you would come to the podium, you'll have 3 minutes unless you're representing a group, and then you'll have 5 minutes if you'll keep all of your comments directed towards the city council. Any comments or questions, we'll get those answered at the end of the public hearing. All right, anyone wishing to speak for this plan of services and annexation, please come to the podium. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and we'll consider on first reading, first reading ordinance 26OZ03.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye, and I apologize, that, if someone would restate that, that actually is resolution 26RPSA 03 that we just voted on, not the ordinance, if you don't mind.
Do you want to re-vote, or?
Is everyone okay?
I'm good.
We're good.
Yeah, resolution. Okay. All right. So now let's move to the public hearing for the zoning of 6.41 acres simultaneous with annexation.
Thank you, Mayor McFarland. This is for the exact same property that you just considered for annexation. The applicants, the owners of the property, are requesting that this parcel be zoned to RS6 simultaneous with annexation. That would be for single-family residential lots of a minimum of 6,000 square feet. Their intentions, and this is just a rough concept plan to show you their intentions is to develop an approximately 17-lot subdivision by extending the rights-of-way of Majesty Drive and Cicero Drive. It's not a planned development, so this is just for informational purposes. They would not be held to this layout, but it's just an illustration of their intentions. I went over the surrounding land uses earlier. As I mentioned, the property to the east is in the unincorporated county, and the property to the south is zoned PRD, which Planned Residential District. It's the Blackman Village PRD. It's their single-family detached homes constructed and platted as part of a horizontal property regime. And as I mentioned, to the west is the Blackman United Methodist Church, and further to the southwest, you see the PND. That's the Rutherford Collegiate Prep school there along Manson Pike. The Murfreesboro 2035 Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map identifies the property as BP Business Park. We believe that is an error on the adopted future land use map. As you can imagine, I think it would probably be hard to construct a business park at the end of a residential street. Staff's opinion is that the natural extension of the AUR, auto urban residential, to the south onto this property would be an appropriate interpretation of the intention of the future land use map. Staff is supportive of this rezoning request because we do believe that it is consistent with the intention of the future land use map, which would be auto urban residential, even though it's coded as business park, and that using the transition policy of the future land use map, that auto urban residential would be the natural transition from the auto urban residential to the south. Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this matter on December the 3rd and voted at that time to recommend approval to the City Council. I'll be happy to answer any questions about this zoning request either before or after the public hearing.
Any questions for Mr. Baumley? Thank you, Mr. Baumley. All right, let's open the public hearing for the rezoning of this 6.41 acres simultaneous with annexation. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come to the podium. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and we'll now consider on first reading ordinance 26OZ03.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Averwater.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, we'll move to item 8. This is a plan of services and annexation for property along Elam Road. Mr. Baumley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We received an annexation request from the Tennessee-Kentucky Seventh-day Adventist Church for the annexation of their property located along the east side of Elam Road. The property is directly to the south of the Summersby subdivision and directly to the west of the FedEx Prologis facility. You'll see FedEx is located here, Summersby here, and some undeveloped property along the west side of Elam Road. Also included in the study area is a linear parcel that the city owns, and the city acquired that property from Prologis several years ago for the purpose of being able to use it to work with whoever develops the property to the south of the church property in order for the extension of Distribution Drive to happen. Also included in the study area is the right-of-way of Elam Road. There's a gap in the right-of-way of Elam Road that's still in the unincorporated county, and we included that to close that gap, clear up any confusion about jurisdiction in that area. The Rutherford County Road Board voted several months ago to grant its consent for the city to annex that right-of-way. The property is within the city's urban growth boundary. It is within our infill service line, and as you can see, it is directly adjacent to the existing city limits on its north and east sides. The plan of services is included in your agenda materials, and it shows that the property, that services can be extended to the property. There is sewer located at the northern property line of the of the church property. And it would be up to the applicant to extend, if they wanted to access city sewer, which I believe is their intention, to extend sewer from the north down into their property. And they have intentions of building additions onto their church and their school in the near future, which I believe is the impetus for this annexation request, so that they can access city sewer in the future when they move forward with expansion. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this matter on December the 3rd and voted at that time to recommend the approval of the annexation and plan of services to the City Council. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Blomley? All right, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. This is for the plan of services and annexation for 10.3 acres along Elam Road. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come to the podium. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and we'll now consider on first reading Resolution 26 RPSA 04.
So move.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saverwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we'll move to item 9, rezoning property along Chafin Place. Mr. Blomley.
Thank you, Mayor McFarland. Our next public hearing is for rezoning property at the very end of the Chafin Place cul-de-sac. It is the area in blue on the map before you. It is a little over 5 acres. Property is currently zoned commercial highway. It is the location of a former daycare center that closed several years ago, I believe. Redeemer Classical Academy, which has been operating out of portable classrooms for about 10 to 15 years, first on Sulphur Springs Road and now on Veterans Parkway. I believe they're located at Fellowship Bible Church on Veterans Parkway, just south of Franklin Road. They are looking to acquire this property and retrofit it for their school. And with the new zoning ordinance amendment that was adopted last year, whenever there is a public or private school, grades K through 12, being established for the first time on a property, it requires rezoning to PID, Planned Institutional Development. And so they have made the request to rezone the property to Planned Institutional Development so that they can establish a school use on this property. Chafin Place is, and the south side of Old Fort Parkway, as you can see, is zoned entirely commercial highway. Just to the northeast of the subject property is the town center shopping center with Target and some other uses. And of course, along Chafin Place, it's primarily developed with hotels and motels, as well as a Cracker Barrel and an antique store. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this matter on December 3rd and voted at that time to recommend approval of this rezoning request to the City Council. I will mention just a quick word about traffic that we included in our agenda materials. The use of the Redeemer Classical Academy, which they've identified a maximum student population of 300, is just slightly greater than the number of students that were at the daycare center. So the impact is nominally greater than the daycare center. However, the peak times for the school will be a little bit different than the peak times for the daycare, whereas folks would be picking up their kids after work at the daycare center primarily. Here, the bell time would be a customary like 3 o'clock bell time. So it will somewhat, the peak times of the school will be somewhat different from the peak times of the daycare center. But our traffic department has reviewed this proposal, and I believe a traffic impact study was submitted for them to review, and so there are really no improvements that can take place to improve the intersection of Chafin and Old Fort, regardless of if this is a daycare center or a school use. So At any rate, SEC has a brief presentation on this zoning request, and be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
And this is a private school. This is not a charter school or anything like that. It's a true private school.
Yes, sir. It's a private school, and like I said, they've been in existence, but just operating out of portables. And they had purchased property on Old Salem Road to build from scratch, and I think they determined that this would be more economical for them.
Mayor, members of
Yes, sir.
council.
Sorry.
Oh.
Podium's yours.
Okay. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. I'm Brian Gover from SEC. With me tonight is Matt Taylor, senior engineer, as well as Representative John Harney for the Redeemer Classical Academy. The project is located at 210 Chafin Place at the very end of the cul-de-sac. As Matthew stated, some of the surrounding areas primarily consisting of some commercial as well as some hotels. Previously, it was a daycare on this site. The current zoning is commercial highway, as is the lands to the north and east. The adjacent land to the south is heavy industrial. The future land use plan does foresee this as general commercial, which does align with the P&D requested rezoning for this area. Some example photos as the site sits today. This is looking into the site as well as out of the site down Chafin Place. This is an image of the Sleep Inn, which is just to the northeast of the proposed site. This is internal to the site, looking at the existing parking lot, as well as an example of as the building is today, which is currently vacant. There's 3 to 4 really main changes being proposed with this site. The first is that the existing building is to be utilized as it is. However, it would be renovated, including as well as being repainted. The parking lot would be restriped as needed, and a fence is being proposed on site that would be one decorative along the northern portion of the site, and then chain link with some mesh for some privacy along the remaining of the perimeter. And there would be the addition of a future building once the school reached that capacity. That would be a maximum size of approximately 8,500 square feet. Some key components for development standards within this project. As Matthew stated, the hours of operation for this facility are not going to be hitting the peak traffic hours because they are maintaining that 8 to 3 p.m. bell times, as well as the maximum amount of students in this would be around 250 to 300, but that is with the existing building as well as the proposed addition. The existing landscape is to remain primarily as is. If anything is damaged on site when the construction or remodeling is happening, it would be replaced. And the setback to the site are standard for the commercial highway. The buildings will not exceed 42 feet in height, and that includes the addition. There's one thing with this addition is that it does have to meet the critical facilities standards within the Murfreesboro zoning ordinance, and that's to do with the floodway elevations. And any future addition will have to meet the standards that are currently approved at that time within the zoning ordinance. This is just an example of the potential layout we're looking at the existing building as well as the proposed. And some of the elevations for the existing building as it is today. This is looking at the northwest portion of the building. This is the southwestern, which is facing closer to the 24. The southeastern portion, and then the loading dock area towards the rear. There's approximately 4 exceptions being requested with this P&D. The first being with the main building is that it's going to be utilized as it is today while being renovated on the inside. However, it would be painted, and there is an example of what that paint chip would look like on page 11 of the plan book, to an alabaster white, and the building would not include the base body or cap because it does not have that as it sits today. We are requesting a minimum area between the parking and property lines be reduced to 5 feet. That is because that exists today at about approximately 5 feet. But if there is any additional parking that's ever built, for some reason it would have to follow the current standards in the zoning ordinance. Lastly, we're requesting an exception to exclude any additional invasive building plantings, as this comes from a recommendation from the Department of Homeland Security as a safety concern for educational facilities. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those now or after the public hearing.
What's that last item? Can you kind of explain a little bit about what that is?
With the
last one there.
basic building landscaping?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what this is there is a requirement in Murfreesboro to have basic building landscaping foundation plantings essentially. What this is requesting is that those are removed, and this is more of a safety concern. So if there is a intruder or something or someone that's not supposed to be on the site, they can't hide within any type of vegetation close to the doorways and possibly get entry or harm someone on site.
Okay. So it's just vegetation. It's not like somebody's trying to drive a vehicle up into the building.
No, so yeah, this is based on recommendations. So basically visualization, or it's unobstructed view lines around the building.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions at this time?
Nope. Any questions? All right, we need to open the public hearing for the rezoning of this 5.3 acres. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come to the podium. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Reford, and I think you need my address. It's 719 Coopertown Road, Unionville, Tennessee. And I'm sorry, I've spoken in front of commissioners before, but I still get nervous every time. So I was planning on possibly sending my kids to Redeemer, 2 of them back there, and I was thinking about what I'm going to say here in front of you, and I'm a little at a loss for words, which is rare. It seems like the school is at this juncture of life or death. The current location, the permit was not extended, and so now the school faces either the Chaffin Place or closure, because it sounded to me, and I've only attended one board meeting with the school so far, and so I came a little late to this conversation, but it sounds like these are the only option that the school has for whatever reason. Other places didn't work out, and so I don't want to speak against the Chaffin Place and cause you to say no to that rezoning, because it would mean the closure of the school. But at the same time, the Chaffin Place location scares me. And I've spoken to some other parents, and we were a little afraid by the location and the crime in that area, and the thought that our kids are being used to clean up an area of the town and clean up that crime-ridden area. But at the same time, I believe our community needs Redeemer. Redeemer is the only affordable Christian school, and believe me, I've done a lot of research. I'm a single mom to twins, and we are currently in a Christian school that is very expensive, and I struggle. And so Redeemer is really the only school that I could find that I can somewhat afford. And if Redeemer were to close, then I think we would really miss out on a great opportunity to educate our kids. And so I think my purpose of being here in front of you today is that I want to ask you to reconsider the decision on the permit of the current location, and maybe if and I don't know if you were the ones that voted on that or who that entity was, but if there is a way to be able to leave the school where it is right now and give the school maybe another year or two to find a location that is safe, where the school can grow and where we feel comfortable sending our kids to, and we don't have to worry about the environment that is outside those doors, even though in the board meeting they shared some amazing security details, and I felt they put a lot of thought into it about the fencing and the security cameras and the SRO. But we have had instances in this country where there was an SRO running the opposite way in times of danger, and so in the current location, I would feel so comfortable sending my kids there and feel like they are safe there. And so I guess I'm asking you for help. Help Redeemer find a safe place to continue and not have to close their doors. And so please don't think that I don't want the Chaffin Place to happen. If that's the only location we have, we'll make it work, and we just pray to God that He watches over the school and our kids. But if there's any way to extend the current location, I believe that I speak for other parents as well, that would really be the best option. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Anyone else wishing to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Mr. Blomley, we had one question about the current location of the current school.
Yes, sir. That, as I mentioned earlier, that's at the Fellowship Bible Church on Veterans Parkway. The Board of Zoning Appeals, Redeemer's been to the Board of Zoning Appeals probably about 6 or 7 times over the last 15 years to get extensions on their portables. They had portables located on Sulphur Springs Road at the church that's at the intersection of Sulphur Springs and Myers for about 10 or 12 years, and went to the Board of Zoning Appeals a number of times for extensions. The board would grant about 2 or 3 year extensions each time. Then they found their new location on Veterans Parkway, and I think they got their special use permit for 2 years, and I think it was extended another time for 2 years. And so I think the move toward Chafin Place is a move toward permanency, I think. They certainly have the ability to go back to the Board of Zoning Appeals and request an extension to that special use permit. But we have been working with them over the course of the last 10 or 15 years to help them find a more permanent location so that we don't have to keep coming back for extensions for their portable.
Any other questions?
No issue, so moved.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would send my kids to a school in that cul-de-sac, but it's a business decision, and the plan looks good, and the zoning is not far off from what it currently is, so. All right.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, let's move to, and I would say, I think, for those who are in the audience, Councilman Averwater has a great point. I mean, we don't get the opportunity to look whether we would like something or not like something. It's if a plan meets the requirements, that's what we vote on. Legally, that's what we can vote on. So I will say this, I think that we have one of the best and most top-notch police departments that we have in this community, and knowing that this use will possibly be out on Chafin, that will be a discussion that internally we have, just like we do with every other daycare or school that's in our community, and we'll make sure that things are taken care of appropriately in the area. So, all right, let's move to item 10, amending the sign ordinance, large flag signs. Ms. Stevens, we love when you come and talk about signage.
Teresa loves it.
Hang on, just let me get my.
Nice catch.
I know, that's what Ashley says on it.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Teresa Stevens, the sign administrator for the City of Murfreesboro. Today I'm presenting for public hearing an amendment to the sign ordinance to allow permanent ground-mounted large flag signs pertaining to Article 2, Section 25.2-26 of the sign ordinance. This ordinance amendment will only affect lots of 20 acres or more in heavy industrial, light industrial, and park zones. One ground-mounted large flag sign per lot, and this amount shall not count toward the number of wall or ground-mounted flag signs otherwise permitted for the subject lot under the same zoning district. Ground-mounted large flag signs shall not exceed 4,000 square feet. The setback shall be 200 feet from all property boundaries and overhead utility lines. The fall zone must be entirely within the boundaries of the property on which it's located. The maximum height of the flagpole shall be 150 feet. Large ground-mounted flag signs may have indirect illumination that shall not glare directly into any building or on any other property. The Building and Codes Department presented the ordinance regarding revisions to Article 2, Section 25.26 of the sign ordinance pertaining to permanent ground-mounted large flag signs during its regular meeting on January 7, 2026. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this matter and then voted to recommend its approval. The City Council will now need to conduct the public hearing on this matter.
Any questions for Ms. Stevens?
Size of the flag.
4,000, approximately 40 by 100
Okay.
feet. So when we were looking at this, I was trying to visualize that. So
So Nate Williams can still have his flag out at Veterans Park, is what you're saying?
yes.
All right. Any questions? All right, let's open the public hearing for ordinance 2606 for the sign ordinance amendment. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come to the podium. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. We'll now consider ordinance 2606.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Overwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Stevens. All right, let's move to item 11. This is amending the zoning ordinance for lot coverage.
Yes, sir. Our last public hearing tonight is an amendment to the zoning ordinance regarding lot coverage. We have, it's been brought to our attention that market conditions are dictating a change to our zoning ordinance. There have been many instances where there have been houses, new houses, additions to houses, accessory structures that have brushed up against our maximum lot coverage requirements. And we have to run into the situation of telling folks that they have to shave off a little bit of their proposed house or their proposed addition. And it's happened so many times that you know, once you start running into things like that, you start realizing that, hey, we need to look at the ordinance to see if conditions have changed since the ordinance was originally adopted. And so if we can put up the my screen real quick, this is a good table that was done that shows just what we're proposing to do. And this is just for single-family detached residential uses. And so you can see the current lot coverage and the proposed lot coverage. And what we tried to do was we tried to be consistent among the zoning districts that, you know, based on their minimum lot sizes, what the maximum lot coverage could be. And so we tried to be consistent throughout all those zoning districts. And we also tried to be consistent with what our market study indicated. Our intern last semester did a market study of about 10 or 11 cities in the region, and he did confirm that what we are proposing is in line with what other communities, their maximum lot coverage requirements. So this brings us more in line with not only the industry and market standard, but the industry standard from a regulatory standpoint. And so we think this amendment is a good thing. It will create more flexibility for folks wanting to build and invest in their properties, and it will eliminate some of those rubs up against the ordinance that our staff is experiencing on a regular basis. Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this matter on January the 7th, and at that time voted to recommend approval to the City Council. We'll need to hold a public hearing tonight, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Baumley? All right, seeing none, we're going to open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come to the podium. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 26007. I just want to make a comment that I'm going to abstain from this. I don't have any financial gain on this, but I have run into this numerous times to be able to tell customers, by the way, I know you have a really large lot, but you know, and this comes up with accessory structures. This comes up with all kinds of things. And the one comment, again, we tell people we want you to build big lots in Murfreesboro, but then we also say we don't want you building a lot on those big lots. And that is what really makes it tough. So.
So move.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Abstain.
Thank you all.
All right, thanks, Mr. Baumley, and thanks for the research on that. All right, let's move into resolutions. You have resolutions 26R02, 03, 04, and 05. This is the issuance of general obligation debt. Ms. Tucker.
Thank you. These resolutions are for you to consider for new debt for both city and water resources. These are all related to the FY26 CIP that council approved last November. This includes approving the initial resolutions, which allows us to advertise, and then also have the detailed resolutions ready for approval, which allows us to issue the debt once we're ready. We'll likely look at borrowing in smaller batches to keep our interest rate low, with our first borrowing probably occurring later this year or into next fiscal year. I'm happy to answer any questions and recommend for approval. And each of these do need to be voted on separately.
All right, any questions? Ms. Tucker, you sent a great email out, but when is the last time that we have borrowed?
It was 2022.
So we've spent almost 4 years since we've had any borrowing, so
We'll continue to stretch that out as long as we can.
great job by staff and a great job by the council on being able to use our city funds and not have to borrow money. All right,
I thought it was a great email. Can you just explain the logic in that? Because it makes great sense to break it up so that the taxpayer sees that we're not just grabbing a bunch of money at one time to borrow, but really being very judicious and wise in how we do that.
Yeah, so in previous years, we would issue in much larger batches. Interest rates were next to nothing at that time. We've seen now those rates have gone up, so we're looking, between 3% and 5%, I believe. Is that correct? Yes. And so to keep those interest rates low, when we borrow that much, that money is just sitting there. And we have a short window of time to get those funds spent without having IRS compliance issues come in where we would have to pay back any interest earnings from those proceeds. So by borrowing in smaller amounts, we can spend it down quicker and then meet our IRS requirements and have interest rates stay low.
Thank you.
all right, we have resolution 26R02. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris? Mr. Maxwell?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. All right, we have resolution 26R03. And just to go through these, can I get a motion for acclamation? We all are going to vote.
So moved.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, we'll move resolution 26R04. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, resolution 26R05. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. See, Aaron, I just saved you a lot of time.
I'm just looking at Adam. If he says it's okay, I'm
Adam's,
fine.
Adam's
That's
leaving,
fine.
Adam's leaving next week.
Works for me.
You asked for acclamation. I think it's.
Yeah. All right, we'll move to on motion. We have 04. I won't do that with any other items, Adam. So I was just trying to, Ms. Tucker gets paid by the word, so we were really working on that. So
I thought that was me.
as attorneys, that's true. Yeah. All right, so let's move to on motion. We have 04 Park Ball Field and parking renovations, final change order. Mr. Hennessy.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This project consisted of an artificial turf playing field, parking area and lighting, stormwater drainage improvements, and replacing all the ball field amenities. Construction was completed within the contract timeline, and this change order finalizes all pay items on the project. There were 2 items that were required less than the estimated quantities, and there is a deduction related to work not required. This final change order reduces the original contract total amount with contingency by $13,821 from $3,056,492 to the final contract amount of $3,042,671. Thank you for the opportunity to bring this for your consideration, and I recommend approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Hennessy?
If there are none, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion second, please call the roll.
Ms. Saverwater.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Valerie, I have laughed at this since this agenda has come up because, I mean, I guess it means you're old if you can remember what Calgon is.
Take me away.
That's right. So we now have the Calgon Carbon Corporation Contract First Amendment. Take it away, Ms.
Okay.
I don't get it, guys.
Quit
Stop.
laughing.
Tell who the young one is.
Wow, well, that just says roll, Jamie.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Calgon, take me away.
That's right.
Yep. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. Our plant has 4 contactors and/or filters. Those filters use carbon to remove disinfection byproducts, pharmaceuticals, makes it taste better, and it removes any odor. Typically, we change out the filter media, which is the carbon, in 1 contactor per year. This amendment will allow the Calgon Corporation to do that to filter number 1 in July, if the amendment is approved. The amendment includes a 1.1% increase based upon the producer's price index. And so, if approved, the funding would be from the FY27 budget, and we would request approval for the amendment.
Any questions?
This is the part of council they don't tell you about when you're campaigning. I would like to think that the water just tastes great on its own, and that we don't have to remove all these things.
Tastes great and it's less filling.
Take me away.
Miller Lite.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second, please call the roll.
Ms. Saverwater.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move to item 15, the purchase agreement for custom soccer shelters.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. For your consideration tonight is a contract with BSN Sports LLC to purchase 2 Quick Goal custom soccer shelters. These would replace 20-year-old shade structures at Richard Siegel Soccer Complex. These weather-resistant shelters, they enhance the safety and overall experience for the players on the field. Total cost is $52,395. That money is allocated in the CIP, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
If there are no questions, I'll move for approval.
Motion is second, please call the roll.
Nobody's okay.
Madeline seconded it.
You said that before she
I knew
seconded it.
Madeline and I are like this, we knew that.
Ms. Saverwater.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye.
The
All right,
mayor's very excited about those shelters.
I am. All right, we have a sidewalk reimbursement agreement with First Baptist Church. Joe?
Hey, good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name's Joe Elabin. I'm a project coordinator with the engineering department. This is my first time presenting to you all tonight, so I appreciate the opportunity. Before you is a reimbursement request from First Baptist Church. They recently completed a parking lot expansion project, and part of that, they constructed some sidewalk within the right-of-way along Bilbro Avenue and Castle Street. So the church has submitted a request to be reimbursed for the public portion of this sidewalk work in the amount of $93,668.93. This can be funded through our State Street Aid funds, and due to the improved connectivity and safety this sidewalk provides in the area, staff recommends approval of this request, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Which First Baptist Church is this?
It's the one, I believe, it's on the corner of Bilbro and
I
Castle
go to
Castle
First
Street.
Baptist on East Main. I just wanted to make sure which
Yeah,
one was
I
which.
believe the address is Castle Street.
Okay.
And I go to one on Capitol.
Okay, there you go.
We have a motion.
Second?
Second. Motion second, please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Hey, thank you for your first presentation. I wish we would have made it a lot harder if maybe give him something tough next time. So, thanks, Joe. All right, let's, I don't think we have any board and commission appointments. Let's move to licensing. Your beer permits, we have a couple.
Yes, we have two. The first is for a new restaurant located at 2181 Old Fort Parkway, and the second is for a new event center at 1660 Middle Tennessee Boulevard, Suite B. Both have met our requirements, and we recommend for approval pending any final building and codes inspections.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second, please call the roll.
Ms. Saberwater.
Aye.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Mr. Wade. Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, any other business from staff? Any other business from the council?
Workshop next week?
We have workshop next week, and this will be Adam's official last time in the council chambers. And so want to just say thank you for a job well done, Adam. We're very proud of you, and we're going to miss you.
Thank you very much. It's been quite an honor to work with all of you and to represent the city. And I'll miss the friends that I've made here. And again, thank you for this opportunity. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Adam, thank you, and you will be missed. And when Tennessee returns the favor to Ohio State in football, I'll be sure to come to Cleveland and bring you a Tennessee Vols hat.
I will wear a Vols hat or shirt, and I'll honor my end of the bet.
And if you all in Ohio decide you all want to sue us for anything, don't you represent them?
All right, seeing no other business, we'll stand adjourned.